talk to us about how these first 2 days gone, met expectations, what you've seen out there?
Yeah, we had a really good summer from an install perspective. So obviously the X's and O's have been what we expect on day 1 and 2 for limited install. We've been really evaluating the mental disposition. Are you able to sustain the technique and fundamentals that are required throughout the duration of practice? Are you able to keep your discipline? Are you able to stay focused on exactly what you're supposed to do, even when the front changes or the formation changes? It's been pretty good. You can't get too excited in the first couple of days of spiders. There's been some guys who have done a really good job of pressing, just pressing through, staying very intentional about the next play, the next fundamental. Day 2 was better than day 1, so it was good to see that increase as the installs start kind of piling up. Typically, the mind gets a little cloudy when when you get a little tired. So, being able to sustain the duration of practice is what we're going to continue to evaluate. But good start.
Didn't get to talk to you after the spring and regarding that portal window. Could you maybe hit on a guy or two that you got that can help you now? I know probably the tight end and
we brought in some really good talent. There's always a reason guys transfer, and what we've got to try to do, especially with the guys that just got here in June in that window, is kind of figure out, okay, what makes them tick. It's one thing to go to the weight room and throw weight around. It's another thing to go out practice after practice after practice, get corrected. The group, the D-line's been really good. We've got some potential there. The tight end coming in has given us some depth and competition at that spot, which will allow our offense to continue to flow consistently. We brought some DBs in for some depth, and they're competing at a really high level. We haven't gotten into depth charts and all that. We're kind of moving a bunch of guys around. So that would be the group. Our punter got here today, so we'll get a chance to see him kind of get acclimated a little bit. So I'm impressed with the guys we have. There's still a lot to be desired when you start adding, installs and pads and different drills, but good start so far.
I was going to ask about the D-line room, but the wide receiver room in particular, a lot of players coming in, revamped room. What have you seen from there too?
Yeah, that room is kind of conditioned already, because
Yeah.
most of that room was at the other place with us, which they kind of know, how to sustain through the practice, how to stay, next play mindset. They do a really good job of teaching the other guys that have joined. They're really holding each other accountable. Coach Dobson, Coach Bolin, Coach Anderson have all, kind of patted those guys on the back for their continuous, effort and discipline. That group's a little bit like they're the returners, if that makes sense, when you're talking, practice model, process. They've done a good job adjusting to the scheme. It's a little bit different than what we did at the other place. Similar, obviously some terminology and verbiage, but it's been pretty good.
And off that question, just from watching some of Blake's film, his cut-ups from Utah State, it looks like he's going to ask Braylon to, pre-snap, post-snap, make some a little more decision-making and, choice route stuff with the receivers. How do they handle that stuff through the summer?
It's been good. It's difficult because, during the summer it's a little bit more. We took an approach of kind of part whole. So we took a concept and really kind of dove into that concept for a few days, and then took another concept and kind of dove into that concept, which I think really helped all the quarterbacks, Braylon especially. Now we're starting to see it kind of, come to fruition because now we're not sure exactly what we're going to see it against. In the summer, we know what install they're on. Now we know what install they're on, but they're kind of mechanicking some things. So they're running the same defensive scheme, same coverage with a few different mechanics. So it's been good. Braylon's done a good job of adjusting to it, making some really good reads. The receivers and him are on a really good page, which is good. So it's the first couple of days, they don't have many options, but what they have, they've done a good job of kind of handling, if that makes sense.
From that film too, it looked like, at different points in the game, different situations, he liked to go deep with that vertical game.
Yeah, I think, that all depends on who you have and who consists. Every receiver thinks they can run deep. That's just the nature of that position. But we're really focused on, okay, who can win, who can restack, who can get vertical, who can get a good release, who can play the ball in the air, tracking the ball really well. We've thrown, a lot more deep balls these first couple of days while their legs are fresh. Now when we get into the days start piling up, can you still maybe don't run your 4.3, but do you have the same technique and fundamentals so you can still complete the pass? So it'll be a kind of a work in progress. But yes, that's kind of what Blake would like to do. We've got some guys who've shown some flashes. We've got some guys who can run, which is really good. Obviously, Braylon can get it out there. That's a big piece of it. So it's kind of one of those things where every day you kind of say, okay, one for him, one for him, one for him. So it's been a good kind of a compilation of deep balls, good throws, good routes, good catches, the whole nine.
I guess kind of off that, how have you thought about the secondary so far, the cornerbacks first few days?
Really good. I think that's probably our most I would say veteran group as far as guys who have played at a high level. Them and the receivers have a pretty good back and forth battle going, which is good. They're probably going against just about the level of talent we're going to see consistently in our conference. Obviously, when we get out of conference, we're not saying that. But, in our conference, we got some good wideouts, and we've got some good wideouts. So the work back and forth has been really good, along with playing the right technique, right? It's one thing to go out and do one-on-ones and all that, but playing the right technique, playing the right leverage. I think our secondary is doing a really good job with their eyes. The communication's been good and consistent. Typically starts out, everybody's talking kind of as the day goes on, it gets quiet. That hasn't happened. I think that's because of the experience level in that group. So been really impressed with it. It's been a good battle. It's probably been the best battle we've had without pads. O-line, D-line is kind of, you can't really evaluate that battle until you put pads on, but the skill battle has been really good.
Got to lay my eyes on your O-line guys from the spring to now. We had that discussion in the spring as well, but their bodies, some of them's bodies look significantly different. Can you kind of speak to how that
well,
went?
I think, again, Coach Ashford has done a phenomenal job. That we talked about it in the press conference. The administration, the nutrition plan we had is as good as it's been at some Power 5 schools that I've been at as far as what we're able to continuously feed them throughout the summer. Obviously, when you're in camp, everybody eats, but what we were able to do in the summer was basically the same as we're doing in camp. 3 meals a day, quality meals. Guys really took heed to what they needed to eat. I think, again, Coach B.A. really pressed the guys to really realize, hey, if you fuel your body right through June and July, it won't fail you in the season. And they've done that. Now we've got to continue to do that. You go out, start practicing, you lose some weight and those things, but we've been doing really good of continuing to hydrate, continuing to eat. Our body weights have been consistent. I think it's going to help us in the long run.